Now we are moving on to our second learning objective for our first learning module. And so basically, as a business student, why you should study statistics. I know in my introduction video, I already emphasized it, but here I want to put it on the lecture so that you have a clear understanding, especially the skill set you should focus on practicing. And so the key here is knowing statistics will make you a better consumer of other people's data analysis. And as I mentioned, nowadays, because the development of computer and the storage, and then it enable the company to store all the data we generated. Again, the data here, it doesn't mean has to be the numbers, and so any action, behavior, the pictures, and even now I'm talking, right? So the recorded voice, so they all consider as a data. And so once we have so many data there, without the capable skills or statistical skill, you won't get any insight from that. You just pretty much just wasting those resources. And so it just make you a better consumer, right? So when you think about consumer, it's just like the data is like raw meat, right? So you need to know how to cook them, and so in order to consume it. So before you become a consumer, you need to know how to cooking those data. So the statistic tool is like a cooking skill your professor teach you so that you can cooking the data to making as a fancy dinner, and then you can digest it, right? So and you should know enough to handle everyday data problems, to feel confident that others cannot deceive you with spurious arguments, and to know when you've reached the limit of your expertise. So we are not in the political science classes, but this is one thing we want to emphasize, that is nowadays, if you watch the news, they continue citing the data, citing the number. As you know, some of the data are biased, and especially sometimes when we talk about polling people's opinion. And as you're learning this class, you will know that when I hearing those results, I always going to ask, hey, who are you surveyed? Are they actually really representing the whole United States citizen, or they are just a small group of people they surveyed, and that is biased, right? So that is one of the common sense we want to develop, is how we are able to developing a good sample, so that we are able to developing the right conclusion to representing population. But also, if somebody representing some information to us, we are able to use our statistical critical thinking ability to distinguish whether that's a truth or that is a biased result. Okay. And also statistical knowledge give company a competitive advantage against organizations that cannot understand their internal or external market data. And I don't know your inspiration, regardless you're going to work for the Fortune 100 company or just local small businesses. For the business who are able to digesting the data effectively and derive the business insight, so they will be the one to win the competition. As so everybody know, we are in the United States. Our market structure is called a market-driven market mechanism. That means if you have more information and you are able to make better, more informed decision, and then you can win the competition. Nowadays, the information is not coming from, hey, I just reading a newspaper, or you ask somebody, hey, do you know anything? But it's coming from those data your consumer generated, and if you are able to digest it, you can help the business, either you operating or you supporting, to win the competition. And master of the basic statistics gives an individual manager a competitive advantage as one works one's way through the promotion process, or when one moves to a new employer. So that's really for this point I want to talking about as you graduate from the college. So maybe you haven't had any work experience, so that's going to be your first job, right? So the senior people in the company, maybe they have been really good at statistics. They only had the business judgment, so they have a very important component. So why they hire you? Because you have some unique skill they don't have, right? So you are able to analyzing data. You are able to use Excel. You are able to manipulate data, find the business insight that the senior people cannot find. So that is when they need to hire you, right? So then you make yourself special, and then they want to, so then down the road, they will promote you. So on the other end, so if you already had a working experience, so after you earn this degree, maybe allow you to earn a promotion in your company. So why is that? So because you show your potential that you can mentoring the junior associate, given you already have the business judgment skills. And then so adding this actual component about statistic, understanding data, and then it just gave you another opportunity to move even higher of the corporate ladder. And again, so maybe you are thinking to run your own business. Again, you cannot not knowing number, you cannot not knowing your customer, right? So therefore, having this skill set really beneficial regardless which path you're going to choose in the business world. Okay, now let's focus on, hey, what kind of skill you really need as a good business statistician or business analyst or any data related in the business world. So the first, besides the statistics skill, we also want a student to be able to have a good communication skill. So that is understanding the language of the statistic facilitates communication and improve problem solving. So one thing I noticed teaching this similar class for many years is that some students are really good at getting the number right, but when I say, hey, can you tell me what is the business sense from this number? They have no clue. So that is not good. So for our class, we not only just focus on, hey, we want to get a number right. Hey, we want to understand how this formula works. But most importantly is, hey, can you communicate this number and making sense so that the business owner or even you run your own business can based on that number to make some kind of business decision. Our ultimate goal here is not just solve a math problem. Our ultimate goal is derive business insight, help business decision making. So that is very important skill you need to practice during the semester. I'm always going to ask you, hey, does that make sense? We work on this problem, put you in the business setting. Even I don't ask the question, doesn't that make sense? You should ask yourself, hey, does this number make sense to me? What kind of business decision I can make based on that? And then the second skill is called the computer skills. And so nowadays the data set is huge. Although, as I said, this is the entry-level classes. I'm still going to show you the formula, do some manual calculation. It is crucial for you to understand when you go into real world that very rarely you use hand to do any calculation because the data is huge. You might have thousands of data. So when I work for the Capital One, the data I'm handling, that will be 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. Of course, I cannot use a hand to do any calculation. But this is undergrad level courses. We start using Excel. So we are introducing Excel. Once you go into the QBA 3000, you're going to learn more sophisticated Excel skills here. Like I said, we will introduce Excel, but at the same time, I will show you some manual calculation. Make sure you not only just know, hey, I know Excel formula, but don't know what's going on behind that formula, right? So because this is a foundation class. Okay, communication skill, computer skills. Next is called information management skills. So the statistics help summarize a small and a large amount of the information, the data, and the review underlying relationships. So you need to know how to managing those information, what kind of statistics you needed, and then what kind of how you derive the interpretations. And then the next is called the technical literacy. So the career opportunity are in growth industries propelled by advanced technology. So the use of statistical software increase your technical literacy. So if you have opportunity to take some other classes from me, like applied econometrics and economic forecasting class. So in those classes, I'm actually introducing called the Python. So that is one of the very popular program. So we're not learning the Python foundation, but I can expose my business student in terms of how to programming in those classes. Okay. And also remember the process of improvement. You also need to understanding the process of improvement is necessary in this field. And a large firm have formed system for continually quality improvement. Statistics helps firm oversee their supplies, monitor their internal operations, and identify problems. And the quality improvement goes far beyond statistics, but every college graduate is expected to know enough statistics to understand its role in quality improvement. Okay, so as you are learning the statistics, we are gaining the knowledge of statistics, and then the role you will play in the company is really crucial, help them to improve the quality of the operation, quality of the product down the road. Okay, so that is hopefully this explanation help you understand why as a business student you are studying statistics and the crucial skill you need to develop during this one semester of learning. And again, after this class, you're going to learn QBA 3000 and you're going to advance more of your analytical skill and the communication skill in those classes. So after we learning as a business student why it's important you learn the statistic, now let's look at some practice questions to help you to better understand what we just covered. So first is, which is least likely to be an application where statistic will be used for? And keep in mind, the statistic is where we have a lot of data, and based on data, we help them to derive some kind of business insight, help them to making a business decision, right? So if there is no data involved, then we are not able to help them to do any statistical analysis. Okay, so therefore, let's look at the following 4 options. So which is least likely? So first is predicting whether an airfare is likely to rise or fall. So as you're thinking about this question, and so basically, do we have data? The answer is yes, we have many historical data. And are we able to, based on historical data trend, to predicting whether the airfare is going to go up or go down? The answer is yes. So therefore, we have data, and then we had historical data. So therefore, this is a data question, and we are able to use statistics help us to predict. So 1 is not a choice because we are able to use statistics. And for the question number 2, option number 2, designing the most desirable feature for a ski pass. And so as you're thinking about this, you say, where's the data coming from? So the most desirable feature, right? So what happened here is you are able to design a questionnaire. So in the later chapter, we're going to look at how can we collecting data. So as you design a questionnaire, hey, ask the consumer, hey, do you want to have a coffee shop and a 1 to 5 scale? You want it or don't want it, and etc. Right? So you design a survey after you collect the data and you analyze it, and you are able to give a business insight. So this also is the situation that you are able to collecting data, and based on the data to making an informed business decision. So option number 2 is not a choice because we are able to use statistics here. And number 3, deciding whether offering Rice Krispie improve restaurant sales. And I think this is one of the similar question being asked by McDonald's. I don't know, you notice in McDonald's now they are selling a donut, so which is really interesting. You are able to see the donut at a McDonald's, and so it's not one of the case. And if you are looking at other restaurants, so they offer new menus and collaborating with other brands. So there is analysis behind it. So they try to understand the sales of that specific item from the other brand to see, hey, we are appealing similar customer or we are appealing to a different customer. The goal here is not, so if the customer going to the Rice Krispie already going to go into this restaurant, maybe it's not a good idea to get a Rice Krispie because you already attracting the same customer, right? But if the Rice Krispie attracting different customer or making more kids want to go into your restaurant, and then how do you know that? So you're going to survey understanding Rice Krispie's customer space and then understanding your customer base, so the restaurant customer base, and then to make that informed decision. So again, this is data-driven decision, right? You try to understand Rice Krispie, what percentage of consumer are like what their race, gender, age group look like, and then you try to understand your restaurant customer, what kind of race and gender. And so from that perspective, you can decide whether you want to offer Rice Krispie, right? So the other option can be offering the Rice Krispie. Will that make people spend more money, right? So that's another option you can study. But regardless which way you are you're gonna use, all scenarios require you to collecting data or looking at the historical data to understanding the customer base, and then to giving that and using statistics model to help the business decision maker to making an informed decision. So in that situation, we also use statistics. Now let's look at the last option, choosing the wording of a corporate policy prohibiting smoking. Okay, so at this point for this one, maybe you can see we can to see which word can actually make people stop smoking. However, this question for this last one is more like a language question versus a statistic question, right? So therefore, for the last one, choosing the wording of the corporate policy prohibiting smoking is English question. And there are no data involved. I don't really have any thoughts on how data get involved, and so no historic data involved. So in that situation, for this question, we will choose option 4 because this is the least scenario we're going to use statistics. Okay, so this is the one question. Let's move on. Next, how much statistics does a business student need to know? So here, for this 2 question on the PowerPoint, I just want to emphasize that as you are a statistics student, undergrad student. So if you had inspiration to become a statistician, and you definitely can pursue a master's degree as with a statistics, just like what I did. And then, so that would be a different story. So here we only focus on the business student who had no, not a statistics major. So if you're a dual major business statistics, so this is not a question for you. So this is the question for students who only purely getting a business degree. So the reason we ask this question is because to help you to understand, hey, what level of statistics you're gonna know. And then, as I said, your function will be more like a communication and more like helping the business to bridging the gap between the statistic and the business decision maker, right? So therefore here we're just looking at if you are just a business student, and then how much statistics you need to know. Okay, first, not much. Consultants do most of the statistical analysis. That's not true, right? We spend the learning of our 1.2 to talking about the middle level of the learning you need about statistics, right? So definitely you cannot choose one. We actually should say not much. We should say very much. Okay, number 2, enough to handle everyday data problem. That is one of the options you need to choose. So we want to be able to, hey, if you bought through a bunch of data and multiple spreadsheet with the data, you are able to do some basic analysis. Okay, so number 2, enough to handle everyday data problem. So you need to choose this one. 3, enough to feel confidence discussing a colleague's data analysis. Again, this is very important. We're talking about your promotion or your first job after college. And this is a very crucial skill as being a student, that is, you are able to look at the data to discuss with your colleague. Number 4, enough to know when to call a statistical expert, to know when to calling a statistical expert. Hey, yes, this is very important, right? So first of all, statistical expert, somebody like me, we don't want to be called all the time. Hey, what is the mean? Hey, how to develop bar charts? But we will be called when you have, I don't know if this makes sense for the t-test, if this p-value is look right to you, right? So you need to know when to call and when you are the one to solve the problem solely. So that first of all, you need to be able to solve the problem solely so that they don't feel you are useless, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be fooled that at a certain scenario, the problem is so difficult. You say, hey, I can't handle that. And then you make mistake and misleading the business decision. So therefore, you need to know enough to understand, hey, this is my limit. I need to ask for help. So therefore, for this question, how much statistics does a business student need to know? You need to choose 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now the last question here. List some benefit that would govern the decision to call an expert statistician. Okay, again, we want to emphasize that you are learning on the grad level. As a pure business student, you need to know your limit. So therefore, we have this question here. So what is the benefit? First, better sampling strategy, which can result in more useful data. Do you choose this? The answer is yes. So getting an expert idea about how to sampling. So we're going to learn some sampling method, but it will be a better idea if you are reach out to the statistician to given the certain scenario to decide the best sampling strategy. Okay, so the statistician can help you improve your work. So better understanding of what information can be extracted from the data. So when you started and to make your work more efficient, so you can start to do some sandbox to play around different kind of analysis. But when down the road, when you try to present your result with stakeholders, it will be a good idea actually reach out to the statisticians to getting their input about your work. Number 3, greater confidence in the result. Yes, it's definitely. So there is experience. I came across at my corporate experience, somebody presenting the easy level and saying, hey, this result is 0.5, p-value is significant. So we all sitting there silent. And that kid got fired down the road because 0.5 is not significant. So if he is able to share that result with us before he presents, I think he's still going to have his job, right? So asking statistician to validate your work definitely going to give you more confidence in your result. And the last one, projects are always delivered on time. Again, we always try to deliver our work on time, but asking statistician won't guarantee you deliver your work on time. And so sometimes if you wait for the deadline to finish your work and then send to the statistician, so they are very busy, you might end up not be able to deliver. So definitely ask the opinion from statistician is not speed up your work. It just quality control your work. So their role is make your job with better quality versus allow you to finish things more faster. Okay. So therefore, for this last question here, and so we will choose 1, 2, and 3, and we will left 4 because again, statistician cannot help you on your deliver time. Okay, so hopefully this practice question help you better understanding our second learning objective for our chapter, first learning module. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.